Hello, London. Super excited to be here with this panel. We're transitioning right from the power of storytelling. That was an awesome panel. Thank you very much. To the power of play for purpose. And before we get started with this awesome panel with Joerg, Nat, Dan, and Blake, I have the honor to explain a bit about the basics of play for purpose. What do we mean by play for purpose? What is the framework? First and foremost, who am I? I am Ben, the co-founder of Seeds. Together with my co-founder Sven, I founded this company about last year. And what we did is basically we combined elements of sustainability, Web3, and gaming to what we then called at that time play for purpose. And I'm super happy that now we have this here at NFT.London and that we can explain that to you. So what is play for purpose all about? Well, play for purpose starts with the assumption that every one of us in this room, every one of you, everyone working in games and in storytelling has a huge amount of power. Now you might say, what the hell, Ben, what power? I just bought this Bored Ape last year. I'm down 90%, what the hell is my power here? But it's a very basic power that we have, the power of play. And let's take a step back, what we are doing every day. We are not only making fun games for our users, but we are working with something that is older than mankind, right? So animals use the power of play to use the skills and to learn the skills they need for their survival, right? And if you believe the Dutch historian Joseph Huizinga, then actually play is the basis of all culture. So that is the power that I'm talking about that every one of you has. Now you add the kind of elements that you get with video games, kind of the immersion and the storytelling with it, you get all those dramaturgical, persuasive strategies on top of that. Plus, all of us that are working now in Web3 games, we also get an economic incentive layer, right? So we can guide our users with economic incentives. And play for purpose is basically saying you have the power and use it for good. Use it for a purpose. And what do we mean by purpose? We basically say that purpose is one of the 17 SDGs, UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that can be climate action, that can be zero poverty, zero hunger. That's basically what we mean by purpose. How can you implement that purpose? Well, basically there are three very easy strategies to do it. On a bottom foundation, we are doing that at Seeds by purchasing carbon offset credits from the purchases that users are doing inside our application. You can provide financial help, financial funds to NGOs, don't do it yourself, to NGOs that are in the field of the purpose that you're working on. And that is something very basic that you can do. We are working with programmable money, and that is something very basic you can start. But there's something more that you can do. You can interweave actually your game mechanics with the purpose that you're working for. As an example, at Seeds, what we are doing, we are basically wanting to make an easy way to fight climate change, to take climate action. And what we did is you can plant our small little creatures according to the real-world weather into actual real-world locations. So users actually have to learn about climate change and to learn about different climate zones in order to grow their seedles. So that is something that you can do as a second level to actually use game mechanics to trigger behavioral change. And then ideally, that all leads to kind of a joint action. Point number 3, you can build a community around your purpose. We know that games are superb for actually building communities, and if you get them around a purpose, that is perfectly. You can do it with building DAOs, you can do it as we're doing it at Seeds with building a token and handing that to partner projects, and we are going to see a very wide array of purposes and how we intertwine them into games. Just one last sentence from me, why should you do it? Well, you shouldn't just do it for the good of the planet, you should do it for your own good. It was a study by McKinsey, probably the most capitalistic company that you find out there if you want, and they are quite clear on the projections of what purpose will mean to our economy in the future. 80% of the companies that do not have a clear purpose will die out by the end of the decade because consumers are growing increasingly aware of the purpose. So make yourselves a favor, integrate a purpose into your game, and let's make play for purpose something that is the future of NFT gaming. But now enough from my side. Welcome to the panel. And maybe if we start with you, Dan.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Dan. I'm the founder and lead developer of Revolution. I started Revolution whilst working as a software engineer at Google and have since left to focus on the project full time. So Revolution really started as a conversation about what a mess humankind have made on our planet and what we would do differently if we had the opportunity to start all over again. So it's a game built to provide a new outlet for people to learn about the short and long-term consequences of the decisions that they make regarding our planet, whilst, of course, still being entertaining, which should go without saying with it being a game. So in Revolution, you'll have the opportunity to create, develop, and sustain ecosystems and eventually civilizations on your very own planet. Our beta, launching later this year, is bringing the ability to be able to populate your planet with alien plants and creatures. But that's not going to be any simple feat, as you'll have to sort of find a way to be able to create sustainable food chains. And while some plants and creatures may bring you more income or certain in-game benefits, you'll have to make sure that they fit into a food chain and that those creatures have a food source and a sustainable ecosystem around them so that your long-term benefits stay and you're not just raking in the sort of short-term income and not thinking about what's going to happen a year on from your decisions. So really, in short, we just hope to be able to entertain people while sort of promoting and rewarding the long-term focused behavior which supports our planet and also the wider Web3 ecosystem.
Oh my goodness, they were both so eloquent, and I'm really nervous. That was a great intro. So I am Gimme, or Nat, if you want to be really Web2 about it. My project is Gimme Gargoyles, which those of you who remember Neopets or Club Penguin or Moshi Monsters, it's a game in the same genre. It's a browser game. You explore, you play mini games, you collect little gargoyle furniture for your little gargoyle room. And my background is 13 years as a games developer. I mainly do UX, UI, and 2D art. The earlier part of my career was like very much games for fun, so like web games for Disney and Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and all their like fun properties. And then later in my career, much more kind of thinking about ways to use games for making the important things in life fun. So fitness, healthcare, education, that kind of thing. So that was a much shorter introduction, but that's me, and that's Gimme Gargoyles.
That was super eloquent, so you were perfect with all three of them.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Blake, and I come much more from the investment side of crypto. And so I've invested into a lot of Web3 games. Right now, what I think in the context of this panel, what would be great to talk about is kind of the game that we're building within my company's studio, which is called Resurgence. It's very complementary, I think, to what you two are also building, in the sense that it's a Web3 MMORPG that really focuses on the end of the world because of climate disaster. Very kind of not much imagination often needed for kind of the story that we're kind of weaving into what we're building. And in terms of really what we're thinking about in terms of in the context of play for purpose is how are we able to actually say really interesting things, really build in that deep storytelling to actually kind of make people think and engage more deeply about the planet and how kind of their actions digitally and also, you know, IRL are really making a difference. And I think another thing in terms of what Web3 can really do is just, you know, when it comes to really programming smart contracts, 10% of all sales and all revenue that we make is actually donated to a charity around, you know, focusing on planting trees and supporting climate change. So, you know, just certain things that I think are way easier in Web3, and the actual infrastructure itself makes it, you know, easier to support and really make a consistent message across not only what we're building, but also the actual smart contracts that everything's built upon. So, yeah.
Hello. Wow. Okay. Let's try this one. Hi, everybody. My name is Joerg. I'm founder of Superfast Games. What we do is game development and some blockchain consulting to earn money. Well, but what we also do is a game called Superfast Cards, which is, you can see it on my t-shirt, it's a collectible card game for like a quartet game. Kids in Germany, where I'm from, and kids, I've been talking to people from Holland today who said, well, when I was a kid, I used to play those card game with my friends. Well, what we did is we brought this card game into an NFT space. It's based on the Polygon blockchain, and we have 1,300 different cars and cards that can be collected. Why Polygon? Because we like the low gas fees, because starting price is very cheap. We have a pack of 5 cards for only 9 Matic, and because we want the people to actually play the cards, that's why we have 140,000 NFTs minted already. We have 25,000 owners and a quite big Discord community. And well, it's running, it's a lot of fun. Of course, we want to grow it bigger. And what we got to do with Play for Purpose, we'll probably come to in a couple of minutes, but I'm excited to tell you more about that.
It's definitely a challenge with those microphones, but you know, keep it exciting. So it's super interesting to see those different use cases, right, Nat, Dan, and Joerg, from a consumer perspective, how different applications are implementing purpose. Some, like Seeds, for example, starting it from the beginning, some others adapting Play for Purpose. And nice that we also have an investor perspective here, Blake. Thank you very much. So one question that I would have is on your journey of adapting a purpose. Maybe we stick with kind of like the games and the consumer perspective first, then we go into the investor perspective. What hardships did you come across, and what tools did you choose to implement a purpose? And probably you could also talk about how NFTs in particular helped you into implementing that purpose. I think, Joerg, you already have a great story on that one.
As our game is about cars, and we know that cars have a very bad carbon footprint, definitely. We've been discussing this in the team from day one on. How could we use the project to reduce carbon? And actually, we had no clue in the beginning. And a lot of people, I mean, there are a lot of petrol heads out there that love the project, but some people said, well, cars are bad for the planet. And I said, yeah, ours aren't that much because you actually don't drive them. But we had the idea very early that we said, okay, we want to give something back. And what we came up with was that we have different play modes. We have a play for fun mode where you just play for fun, but we have a very big play to earn mode, which is played most. Big surprise. People play to earn our token, which is called Petrol. And what we're introducing by the end of this month is actually that you can choose to change the mode from play to earn to play for purpose. And in this mode, everything you earn goes to an extra wallet. And we double the amount at the end of the month that's in the wallet, and want to give this to charity project that can be chosen by the community. We will probably suggest a couple of or 3-4 projects to the Discord community and let them choose to what charity the money goes. Of course, this we're just in the beginning. Won't be like hundred thousands of pounds, euros, or dollars or crypto within the first 2 months, but the community is growing, and we hope to being able to make a little change with that, and that's, I think, what it's all about. If we find a lot of games out there that do a little, many people doing a little is a big outcome in the end, so we'd like to do that.
Perfect, awesome. And I think also, Dan, you have a very good use case for purpose inside the game.
Yeah, so in terms of what you're saying about sort of challenges with implementing it and that sort of stuff, I think one of the biggest things for us is sort of trying to make sure that we're sticking to our initial motivations and purpose for what we're building. I think in this space, there's so many ideas floating around, and a lot of projects are trying to branch out into lots of these different use cases which they're creating for any tokens that they're selling. And I think it's really important for us that we've been able to really focus on the fact that we are initially creating a game, and that was our sort of original motivation. We've had lots of people in our community coming to us talking about things like staking, which seems to be a big buzzword in the space at the moment, which we've quite explicitly tried to avoid, and we've tried to tell people that because we don't want to sort of divert our resources away from the purpose of the project in the first place, which was to create this as a game and to fit that into the Web3 ecosystem. In terms of how we've sort of integrated the NFTs with purpose in our game, I think someone in the previous panel was also touching on this, about how in gaming at the moment it seems quite common that you can put a lot of time, effort and money into games which just gets wiped away when either the next yearly title comes out or they release some update which sort of nullifies all of the content that you've got to so far or anything you've purchased up to that point. We really don't think that makes sense. We think that players should be sort of endlessly rewarded for continuously putting effort into the game. And also, we understand the fact that players aren't going to sort of play the same game for their whole life. We understand that people move on to different things, and we understand that in the sort of concept of our game as well. So one of the things we're doing to combat that, and something I haven't seen quite the way we're doing it before, is that the progress in our game is actually going to be saved alongside the planets that you're building on, rather than the account that you're signed in with while you're playing the game. And what that means is that if you've played it for a while and you've put some time, effort, and money into our game, and then you come across something else and you want to move on, you're actually able to pass on your planet to someone else with that progress that you've put into it, so that as you're putting your time and effort into it, you're actually building up that intrinsic value that your planet has, so that you're not losing everything when you decide to move on to something else.
So these guys are saving the world. And that's awesome. So the purpose with Gimme Gargoyles is much more on like the micro level, if you kind of think about these guys being on more the macro level. So the main purpose is for it to be a fun game. That is #1 priority. I think there are a lot of games in Web3 that have staking and P2E and tokens. And while that's all great for people who are really into the techie side of the Web3 space, I think it's just too much for the average casual gamer. What I would really love to do with Gimme Gargoyles is to just have, with just the NFTs being the playable characters, that is the only element of Web3. Everything else is a traditional browser game. So it's hopefully super accessible. You click a link and then you're straight into the game. You don't even have to have a wallet to try it as a guest. So I really just want to entice, just bring them in, just show them a little bit of something really cozy, casual, and fun. And to show that, you know, games can be fun in this space and you can play for fun. And, you know, play to enjoy is another valid P2E. And so what I'd really love to do as we move on with the project is integrate the onboarding much more into the game experience. So, I mean, just from a UX perspective at the moment, it is a nightmare to have to download a wallet and put ETH in it and have, you know, and have to like self-custody of this as well and write seed phrases down. Like, what even is that? For the average user, this is just not going to work long term. But that is not something I can like deal with as a single, like as one developer on an indie game. But what I can do is handhold people who are brand new to that in the most gentle way possible, and then give them like a game that's worth overcoming that kind of bit of friction for. So yeah, I think, and the reason I want to do that is that this space is kind of full of crypto bros. And that's cool in one sense, but in the other sense, it's only going to grow and it's only going to be richer for more types of people from different types of background coming in. And they're going to come in as well with a different set of expectations, and therefore we'll have a more wide and varied definitions of success in the space. And it's not going to be, what can you flip this NFT for? It's going to be, did you have fun playing this game? Did you make a difference playing this game? You know, and I think if we can have a lot more definitions of success in this space, we are all going to be much richer for it as people, and also hopefully financially, so we can continue making the products that we love.
Awesome to see that different levels. Yeah, that's a very good point that you brought up there. It's awesome to see those different levels where purpose can actually go into the games and the synergies that you can do, right? From like climate change to actually gender equality to other purposes that you're following. And it's awesome to see that diverse array of purpose solutions already now coming up. Now, maybe Blake, one question for you from the investor side. We've seen all the different kind of purposes, of course, Seeds driving the Play for Purpose movement, but also a lot of other games already starting to implement purposes. How is the investor side waking up to that? Is the purpose economy already something that is being talked about and that is being evaluated when investing in projects?
I would say I think a really good investor is open to all pitches and all deals if they think that it makes money. So I wouldn't say that it's at top of mind. I think it's still new in terms of all these ideas being worked out. And it's just, I think, a matter of alignment of incentives so that if there is this purpose that is the heart of a game, does it still align and make users actually want to engage? So I think the fundamentals are still the same. Is it fun? Are people going to genuinely like to play the game? Where is the real upside? And the upside may lie in that they'll want to play the game because there is a purpose, but I think that the same questions are there for maybe a traditional Web3 investor as they would be for kind of more fun game. And it just adds another layer, which I think is interesting, but I think it's still really new, and I think it can't be the only thing, and it can't be maybe the main thing even. It has to be just part of the value proposition. But there needs to be, I think, real game mechanics still at the heart of what's happening.
I think that is a tremendously important point. And I think what we also want to portray with the Play for Purpose framework, right, is we are not building educational games, right? Dan's game, Nat's game, and also Joerg, your games, they are not games that you play to educate yourself. They are not serious games. And also that is something that we did at Seeds. We didn't want to play a game or didn't want to create a game that is actually trying to educate the users. The thing is that ideally, Play for Purpose is taking users that are just here for the fun, or in Web3 games and play-to-earn games that are just here for the gain. And by using game mechanics, they are actually turning those players into players that are here for the purpose and that are actually changing something. And I think we've already seen so many different varieties on how that can be done. I think we are already running to the end of our panel. Maybe we can have one short round, one sentence on what would you advise future projects to implement a purpose. Maybe Joerg.
No, maybe you can tell us a little more about Seeds first. We have 4 minutes left, so maybe you can tell us about your own project a little more, because that came a little short.
All right, no worries. Yeah, sure, I can do that. Yes, Seeds is basically the first Play for Purpose game, and we also try to kind of create that framework of Play for Purpose with a research institute from Germany, the University of Mannheim. And basically what you're doing at Seeds is you have those small, cute little plant-inspired creatures, and you can plant them on the real-world map, as I explained before, and you can kind of grow them with the real-world weather. And the cool thing is that the different kind of plants that you have, of course, they have different profiles, and those profiles match to different climate zones. But we are not explaining that to the user. That's something that is being learned indirectly through the game. And the cool thing is, on every peer-to-peer marketplace sale, on every drop that we are selling, on every in-app purchase that we are doing, by the way, we also have a kind of off-chain model, what you were mentioning, Nat, before, that we have this kind of easy onboarding onto our game. We are allocating funds to the gold standard. So the gold standard is our partner organization. They are providing carbon credits, and basically, so by playing the game, even without knowing, the users are already starting to support a certain purpose. And I believe that is a very important point, because we are not building educational games, right? We are building games that are fun first, that are, I think I like to play for fun, play for enjoyment. And that's something that we should really focus around, right? And I think also the venture of the future combines planet, combines purpose and profit, right? And only this way we can also be interesting for investors, I think, in a space where we can say, hey, we do not only have a financial impact, but we also have a purposeful impact beyond that. So if you want to find out more, head on over to play-for-purpose.com or on seeds.io. You find more about my project. But how about we make one short round? I don't know what the time is, but maybe just one sentence each. How would you advise people on integrating a purpose? Very short, one sentence.
Okay, as I said when I was speaking, I think a little change, many people doing a little change does a big change in the end. So maybe if everybody thinks about how to integrate purpose, whatever it is if it's environmental, social, or like Ned, like you said, I love the idea of bringing people to Web3, gamers that are not there yet. So whatever it is, think about it, how you could do it with your own project, and I'm pretty sure you'll find a good way to introduce a purpose into your project. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
In one sentence, I would just say games have to be fun first.
100%. And I don't have anything else to add because I've said everything and I couldn't think of anything in that time. But our game came out on Friday, the alpha, and I have it with me today. I would love for everyone to come and try it and see if you can beat my high score at the mini game. You can't. But yeah, I would love to show everyone the game, anyone who's interested. So I'll be out there.
I think just to close up, I just want to build on your point about sort of not making educational games. And I think sort of one of the most powerful forms of education is being able to educate someone without them even sort of knowing that they're picking up that knowledge. And I think that that also comes into the game being made primarily for the entertainment reason. If I can make a game which entertains someone and they're learning about our planet and sustainability without even sort of realizing that, then I think that's really a powerful way to sort of teach people things.
Perfect. Thank you very much for bringing purpose to NFT London. Thanks all.